CM Punk recently opened up about something pretty significant regarding his rocky relationship with Triple H. For years, their dynamic has been tense, filled with friction, misunderstandings, and disagreements, but as things stand now, they're reportedly on good terms. Still, many fans and insiders believe it's just a matter of time before things unravel again. With WWE pushing forward towards SummerSlam, the resurfacing of old interviews, a fresh one with CM Punk, and the WWE Unreal docuseries have all combined to give us a clearer picture of what's really going on between these two iconic figures. Both CM Punk and Triple H contributed to the WWE Unreal series, and what became clear is that their relationship went through a sudden shift, almost like flipping a switch. Punk described how, for years, he and Triple H were simply peers, both talent in the company, both one of the boys. But things began to change when Punk started to notice how much hazing and condescension existed backstage, particularly from the veterans toward the younger talent. Punk felt like this was a recurring theme in wrestling, that the older generation always believes their way is the best, without realizing how much the business evolves over time. According to Punk, there are certain principles from 10, 15, or 20 years ago that still work, but you also need to adapt and bring a new energy from the next generation. And when Triple H moved from being a fellow wrestler to being part of the office, Punk said the whole vibe shifted. Punk admitted that this change in Triple H's role, from peer to authority figure, wasn't something he was ready to accept. In his view, once someone becomes part of the corporate structure, they're no longer looking out for the boys, and that rubbed him the wrong way. Punk said he couldn't process Triple H's new position as his boss. He refused to listen or give him the same respect he might have when they were on equal footing. Triple H, meanwhile, addressed the situation from his perspective in the same WWE Unreal series. He explained that when he transitioned into the role of head of talent relations, he saw himself as a buffer, someone trying to bridge the gap between management and the wrestlers. His aim was to represent both sides fairly and to help each understand the other. But that shift wasn't an easy sell to someone like Punk, who had built his identity on questioning authority and resisting corporate influence. And then came a recent interview with Sports Bible, where Punk opened up about a particular moment that tested the waters of his relationship with Triple H following his WWE return. Punk was backstage, anxiously holding a script for what he was supposed to say. He kept looking at it, trying to make sure he got it right. Triple H noticed this, walked up to him, took the paper out of his hand, crumpled it up, and threw it away. "You're CM Punk," Triple H said. "Just go out there and talk to the people." That was the moment Punk needed. It reminded him why he returned. He said that's what WWE brought him back for, to be himself, and Triple H's encouragement in that moment showed a level of trust that Punk wasn't expecting. It marked a dramatic change in their dynamic, one that was built on mutual respect rather than conflict. But this wasn't the first time the two had tried to reconnect. Despite the popular narrative that CM Punk disappeared from WWE after walking out in 2014, following the Royal Rumble and a series of health issues, there were actually multiple conversations between him and the company over the years. While it seemed like complete radio silence, that wasn't the case. According to both Punk and Triple H, there were ongoing discussions at various points between 2014 and 2019. WWE would reach out, Punk would respond, or vice versa. Sometimes they tried to explore ways to work together, but it never quite clicked. Triple H even stated that every time they spoke, he came to the conclusion that Punk hadn't really changed. He was still the same outspoken, defiant personality, so the conversations would fizzle out. As Triple H put it, they would just put the pens down, as The Rock famously said, and wait for another time. One of the most notable behind-the-scenes moments came when Punk had a meeting with Vince McMahon and Triple H in Atlantic City. He was there calling an MMA show when Vince kept accidentally dialing him. Eventually, Vince said, "Forget these in-between phone calls, let's meet in person and figure this out." That led to a meeting where they reportedly made a verbal agreement about Punk's return. But then, according to Punk, Vince ghosted him. No follow-up, no contract, nothing, and it seemed like he had another false start in Punk's long, troubled relationship with WWE. Eventually, things began to thaw again, especially in the lead-up to Punk's actual return. He and Triple H started talking again around Thanksgiving. They cleared the air, shared their perspectives, and reached a mutual understanding. Triple H wanted to bring Punk back, but even then, the negotiations were chaotic. Punk insisted on returning at Survivor Series in Chicago. WWE, not being sure a deal would be finalized in time, suggested waiting until the Royal Rumble. Punk pushed back. He told them it had to happen in Chicago. At one point, the uncertainty was so high that Punk suggested doing a short-term deal and working out the rest later. In fact, Punk arrived at the arena on the day of Survivor Series without a signed contract. He walked into that building without a deal in place, something that almost never happens in WWE. It was a big risk for both parties, but it showed how much trust was being rebuilt or at least tested. This entire saga between Punk and Triple H has layers. It's more than just workplace drama. It's about philosophy, trust, and evolving roles within a business that is constantly changing. Punk's rebellion against authority made him a fan favorite, but it also put him at odds with management. Triple H's rise from top star to corporate executive forced him to view things through a different lens. And yet, somehow, the two are finding a way to coexist again. Punk's current run in WWE hasn't been without its own intrigue. He was injured shortly after his return but is expected to make a big impact leading into WrestleMania season. Meanwhile, Triple H is steering the creative direction of WWE in a new era, and there's been significant praise for how he's handled recent storylines. Bringing Punk back was a major move, one that could only happen if Triple H and Punk could set aside years of animosity. Recent reports also indicate that Punk has been mentoring younger talent backstage, offering feedback and engaging in creative discussions. It's a role that mirrors what Triple H does, and it's a bit ironic considering how resistant Punk once was to corporate roles. But now, he finds himself being one of the veterans, and just like he once pushed back against veterans who didn't understand his generation, Punk now has to figure out how to support the generation that came after him. Triple H, for his part, has been praised for how he's managed Punk's return and other major talent acquisitions like Jade Cargill and Braun Breaker. His leadership has brought a more sports-centric tone to WWE programming, and fans are noticing the difference. The renewed focus on long-term storytelling and character consistency has been widely appreciated, and Punk's involvement is seen as part of that larger picture. On a more current note, there's talk about what Punk's role will be at WrestleMania 41. Some believe he's being positioned for a main event level feud, potentially with Seth Rollins or even Roman Reigns, depending on how creative plans unfold. Punk's injury status remains a question mark, but insiders believe WWE is protecting his physical return for maximum impact. Meanwhile, Triple H has been managing other behind-the-scenes shifts, including developing future creative plans around top stars like Cody Rhodes, Gunther, and LA Knight. Punk is reportedly heavily invested in the creative side of things, even lobbying for changes to his promos and character presentation. Interestingly, Punk's influence on WWE is extending beyond just his own storylines. He's been involved in conversations about improving the realism of promos and pushing for more blurred-line storytelling that blends kayfabe with reality. This has led to some compelling TV, especially on Raw and SmackDown, where realism and unpredictability are now key elements of the weekly shows. There's also some talk that Punk and Triple H are aligned on some creative decisions involving newer talent. Despite their past, the two appear to have a mutual understanding about what makes wrestling work in 2025. While their relationship may never be one of deep friendship, they seem to have found a professional respect that allows them to collaborate productively. All of this makes for a fascinating chapter in WWE history. The fact that CM Punk, one of WWE's most vocal critics, has found his way back into the fold, and that he's working alongside Triple H, speaks volumes about how much both men have evolved. It's a story of grudges, growth, and grudging mutual respect. And as WWE continues building toward major events, all eyes will be on whether this fragile peace between Punk and Triple H can hold, or if it's just the calm before another storm.